Welcome to Secrets from the Scene, a show for local musicians who want to improve their music, grow their audience, and learn about Minnesota's music scene. If you're interested in talking about all things music related and meeting interesting people from our local community, you're in the right place. Hey everyone, welcome back to Secrets from the Scene. My name is Stephen Helvig and I'm your host. If this is your first time tuning in, thanks a lot for being here. This podcast is all about real conversations with artists, producers, music industry folk, and just in general, the scene builders that make the Minnesota music scene what it is. Today, I'm joined by Julian Green, the mind behind Carbon Sound, which is a newish platform that's in conjunction with The Current, KMOJ, and NPR. Carbon Sound celebrates Black musical expression across all kinds of genres like hip-hop, R&B, funk, Afrobeat, and electronic music, and I'm sure others. Julian not only helped to craft the mission, but he's also the guy who built the library from scratch and continues to do so, and guides Carbon Sound's direction to this day. We're going to get into what Carbon Sound stands for, what the platform is for, and how it's different from other music sources, as well as, I'm sure, important to many listeners, how local artists can get involved and get their own music heard. So today, please welcome Julian Green.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Let's talk a little bit about you first. I want to know what your musical background is and how you got to being the guy behind Carbon Sound.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't grow up in a super musical house, but music was always being played, but it wasn't either of my parents were musicians or pushed any of us in that direction. My first memory of really getting lost in music was I think when I was 9 or 10, I got a Rock Band game. I just remember being so obsessed with it and trying to do everything on expert. That really kind of low key got me into so many different kinds of music just through pure repetition. You actually start liking it.
Totally.
And those are the first songs I looked up on YouTube and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then being a kid and I don't know, playing a Grand Theft Auto game and hearing the radio and the super eclectic mix of stuff, really just trying to get into all of that and really enjoying it. So that was cool. And looking in the moment, I didn't realize it, but looking back, I'm that was probably pretty important and fundamental, which is kind of crazy because it seems so inconsequential, but it was an experience for sure. When I got to college, I thought I originally wanted to do stuff like sociology or maybe political science because I enjoyed that kind of stuff in high school. And I thought it was a way to affect change. But when I was in those classes, I kind of just realized, wow, the same things that I think are wrong today are getting kind of recycled by the professors that are just teaching what they got taught to this new group of people who are going to basically recreate the same system that isn't working for anybody. So I had to sit down and think about what made me happy or what seemed cool to me. And I was just watching a lot of vlogs and music stuff at the time. And then I realized oh, you can have a career in music, you can do that. But in school for me as a kid, it was all no, you need to yada, yada, yada. There's only certain career paths that get pushed on you.
Yeah.
Rewinding back again, when I was 16 or so, I worked in a grocery store. Mm-hmm. And I used to work in the morning. So there was a lot of old people shopping. I had the same voice then as I do now. So they would always hear my voice and tell me oh, you should be on the radio. And then when I got to the University of Minnesota, the Welcome Week thing, I saw the Radio K booth at the expo that they had. And I was just oh. So knowing nothing about it and just hearing that, those recommendations reverberate, I started at Radio K pretty much as soon as I got to college. And that was another experience where it was a whole new world of music got opened up. Because when you volunteer, you have to review a bunch of CDs. You have to go to a bunch of shows to get hours to get the right to become a DJ. Oh, okay. So I had to get into a whole bunch of different kind of stuff and discovered so many different things that I liked and stuff and became even more of a music lover and really made that I don't know, just my core personality trait.
Interesting.
So the whole journey has been my whole life, but the intentional chasing it really started once I moved here for college back in 2017.
So where did you go to high school? Where are you from?
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then moved to the Twin Cities, attended the U of M. Mm-hmm. What did you end up studying then?
I ended up studying journalism actually, which ended up being a pretty good fit, given the Radio K stuff and kind of the flexibility of the journalism classes.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed like writing reviews and interviews and things like that. So it just made sense.
Talk to us about Radio K.
Radio K was such an interesting place because you get there and there's like all these different kind of people, and especially like when you're a freshman and you're brand new, like everybody seems so cool. And everybody's like introducing you to so much different stuff.
Okay.
It's kind of like an oasis in the middle of the university, which can just feel like such a like Vineyard Vines, polo shirt, Panera Bread kind of place. Like this is like the one place where like people that actually like things that are maybe a little different kind of like converge, or at least that was like my experience. So it was like super cool. I'm super grateful for the experience because like I said, it kind of forced me to like listen to a whole bunch of different kinds of music or like go into these deep dives on specific artists just to keep my shifts DJing there interesting.
Because it was a requirement, you said, before you could earn the right to become a DJ? Mm-hmm. How did that work?
Back then, at least, you had to have a certain amount of volunteer hours before you could sign up for the training classes. Okay. I think it was like 20 hours. So like if you bannered a show, like put up banners, that was like maybe 2 or 3 hours. If you wrote a review, that was a few hours. If you attended a meeting. Yeah, and then you had to do the training, which was like going to Radio K at like 5 a.m. in finals week. And like just like DJing when nobody's listening, so you get a shift. I hope that it's not the same now for the kids that are doing it, but kind of indoctrinates you, makes you love it.
So when did you first become a DJ then?
I was a Radio K DJ in 2018. I would say a Radio K host. I don't know. The definition of DJing is different for me. I became like a DJ in 2019, but I was a Radio K host starting in fall of 2018 through the rest of my time in college.
What's the difference?
For me, like the definition of like DJing is like manipulating the tracks that you're playing.
Yep.
If you're just playing the music as is and saying what it was, to me, that's hosting. Okay. But DJing is like, okay, I'm playing a track and I'm pitching it up or I'm pitching it down and I'm beat matching with the next track to transition to this other track. Or I'm layering all these tracks to make like a third song. But that's just like my snobby reply to it.
I don't think that's
it might be easier just to say like
snobby.
A radio DJ.
I think that's an important distinction. I really do. Because there is a certain art form to DJing that would be excluded if you are just doing host, responsibilities.
Sure.
Not to downplay a host responsibility. It's also, you have to, be good at that too. But were you a DJ then throughout college?
So I started DJing in 2019, but I was really on and off about it for a while.
Okay.
Until like the pandemic. Like we would have like shows and things like that and like these places in Como and things. But I used to just hate doing it live so much. Like I used to get so nervous. I didn't even realize it at the time. Like I only know this looking back. Like there were opportunities I had that like I remember the day of I just canceled because I was just like too nervous, which was really stupid looking back. But then the pandemic happened and I used that as an opportunity to just like record mixes at home and put them out on SoundCloud, which actually ended up like I actually gained a pretty decent following and got like a pretty decent amount of plays on there, at least more than I was expecting. And I did that like 2020 all the way through 2022, like mixes and mashups and things.
Yeah.
And then started performing again every once in a while in like 2021. I would say just recently though, in the last 2 years, after getting more into like the underground, I guess, electronic side of things here through the work with Carbon Sound, is when I really started to really get into it and like really make it like something that is really just what I do for fun and kind of just like how I interact with people, like a big social thing, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, okay. So connect the dots between college and Carbon Sound.
Yeah. So Radio K was just a great place to learn about everything and to get introduced to this like whole new world of music. At Radio K, too, I became the training director my junior year. So I was responsible for like training in the new DJs and teaching them, how to do a good radio break, how to select songs, what not to do and things like that. And then, 2020 happened my junior year, the pandemic. There had been like kind of a gestating idea of like starting a hip hop stream. Like I think they got funds. One of the station managers got funds to do it. Mm-hmm. And it was like an idea that like started and stopped and started and stopped for a few months. But then the pandemic happened and I was just like, well, I forget exactly what happened. The pandemic was the reason I had the time to be able to burn all the CDs that we needed to like build the library. And there was probably like at least 700 CDs that I burned that like that had hip hop on Radio K's library. You had to burn them to turn them digital so that it could become a stream. And then we had to like make a staff and stuff like that. So all of this eventually became what's known now as the Vanguard, which I started in October of 2020. And it's still going today, actually, after I left. I couldn't keep with it after I graduated because you can't work at Radio K if you don't go to the U. And then I was also the program director at Radio K. The work with the Vanguard actually helped me get introduced to people that work at the Current because they saw it. And the person that ran like the local Current blog or whatever reached out to me. And I was able to meet them and a few other people that worked at NPR through like my work in journalism school to be set up to where like I just started interning at the Current as soon as I graduated from college.
Okay.
And then the first day of my internship, the person that was my supervisor was telling me, yeah, the Current's trying to get this grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to create a new urban alternative stream, which would basically, I was like, whoa, I just did that with the Vanguard. I could do this too. So I just really focused my whole internship to be in the position to, you know, hopefully apply for that job and get it.
Right.
And then I did in December of 2021. And then from December of 2021 until June of 2022 was just the whole like, you know, creating what Carbon Sound would eventually be. And then in June 16th, 2022 is when we launched.
Okay, so you're almost 3 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. How has the first 3 years been?
It's been a huge learning process, really. And it's been really gratifying. It's been hard at moments for sure, too.
Yeah.
But there's been so many lessons learned, and there's been so many moments of like people feeling seen in it, feeling heard from it. And just like, there have been just like those moments where it's like, okay, this was the right decision. We should be doing this. This is a good thing. And then in terms of the lessons too, like professional and personal growth for myself, I feel like I had to learn a lot about like working with other people, listening more to people. And I don't know, it's just been a huge learning process, which has been like the most interesting part to me. But I'm really proud of the way we've refined our output in these first 3 years too.
Okay.
I think at first we were trying to do a little too much, and it was a huge strain on me. Because like for a long time, I was the only person that was doing all the web posting and social posting and everything, which was crazy looking back, but it's highly motivated at the time. But now we're at the point where like we have these kind of anchor content points that get people in, like the DJ sets and the interviews and giveaways and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We get more engagement, more like followers, more clicks or whatever, just by like focusing on a smaller amount of things. And we're able to do those things really well, really consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so much better than like trying to do everything. And it serves people so much better than trying to do everything.
Yeah, sort of a more refined strategy that you can keep up with and feels effective.
Yeah, not saying we were ineffective. Like we won awards for the articles that we wrote and the pictures that we took and things like that. But now we're at a point where I feel like we're getting community voices and we're letting them tell their own stories, and we're like being a platform for that, which I think is more powerful than us like reporting on something, at least in 2025, and for the way people consume media in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. I want to get back to some of those sort of types of content that you're making in the community engagement. But before we move on, it totally makes sense now how the Current and NPR are a part of this. What about KMOJ?
Yeah, so KMOJ and the Current kind of collaborated to like get the grant. This was like before I got involved. So we were working with KMOJ throughout like that grant process and the beginning of like the Carbon Sound gestation. And we also shared a lot of resources in terms of what we got from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The CPB grant included like research into the market, into how it'd be effective and things like that too. KMOJ actually runs a HD2 stream called The Ice, which is more of like contemporary hip hop and R&B, more so than KMOJ, and to serve like a younger audience ostensibly. So they used a lot of those like resources and research opportunities as well to like improve their stuff and things like that too. The KMOJ partnership, at least like I said, this was before I got involved. So my understanding of it was that it kind of had an endpoint. So we aren't like working together anymore, but they're like foundational in terms of like the initial process of like research and things like that too.
Cool. Yeah, that all makes sense. All right. Well, what about the name Carbon Sound?
Yeah.
I assume it's partially a metaphor.
So I wanted a name that was kind of abstract and that could kind of be open to interpretation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of this rapper. His name is Saw Baby. He has a tattoo on his forehead. It's an upside down cross with 666. And it looks like if you just saw it, you would assume he's like a devil worshiper.
Okay.
But it's actually kind of meaningful. It has to do with carbon, right? 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. So it's balanced. And it's kind of the foundation. It is like foundational in terms of like just the universe.
Of life.
Like you can find it in everything in life, in the stars and things like that. And I thought that connected back to how I view the role of like, you know, at least through all the research I've done, all the music I've listened to, all the stories I know about, like, I don't think there is the American musical canon without the contributions of Black people in terms of like jazz, in terms of techno, hip hop and R&B, rock and roll. I had a lot of moments growing up too where like I remember I would try to tell people that like, you know, rock is Black music. And like these are like little Black kids like not believing it and pushing back against you because like they just can't even conceive that. I just kind of always held on to that, and it always just kind of like made me really sad to think about, because like, why can't we do that? And we did do that. You should know about it. We should be proud of it. You shouldn't like delineate between like white people music and Black people music, because it is all Black music at the end of the day. And then also like music is such a unifying force. It doesn't have a color, but regardless, that is where the name Carbon Sound comes from. And that was kind of just like that whole mission of like showing that all music is Black music and like showing the roots of it and not letting people forget it, I thought was important. Because like the same thing that has happened to rock in terms of like people like forgetting the roots of it, the creators not being credited for it, easily, in my opinion, in like 20 or 30 years, that could happen with hip hop. You know, if we aren't careful.
Sure.
Or like any other genre, if we don't like actively credit and actively like teach the history and things like that. And if we let somebody else have it. So I just thought that was important. I still do.
Yeah, and it seems to be a part of what Carbon Sound stands for in terms of the mission of the music that you're sharing and showing the background and educating as well.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the team. Who's all involved in Carbon Sound and what are their roles?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a host. Her name's Sonny Brown. She's an amazing host. She was actually a part of The Current for a long time before Carbon Sound got started, for a show called The Message that she co-hosted with Sean McPherson.
Mm-hmm.
The grant that we got allowed us 2 positions, a part-time host and a community engagement specialist. And Sonny became the host, and she was hired on about like March or April of 2022. And Sonny's just a super integral part of the team. You know, our music stream goes 24/7, but we only have a host on from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So she's really the voice and the personality of Carbon Sound. And she's been super helpful in terms of like finding music too. Like I add the music to the stream, and I'm pretty good with like finding older tracks or other things like that. But the recommendations and requests that Sonny has for her show have really like, I think, buttressed our library and made it so that like we show like this full spectrum of things and so many like hidden gems and things like that. So big shout out to Sonny. We have no voice without her.
Yeah.
And the other member of the team is Andre Griffin, who is the community engagement specialist, who joined in May of 2022. He's really impactful in terms of like helping us get connected with shows. So like working with like the First Avenues and Live Nations to make it so that we can get sponsorships to like provide free tickets to our audience and like help promote these shows with local and national acts. He works with a lot of local folks. So like we're going to have a presence at the Soul of the Southside event this Juneteenth. Like that doesn't happen without Andre. Our music career and collab workshops that we do in collaboration with Springboard for the Arts doesn't happen without Andre. So he's really impactful in terms of like being out at events like at Urban Lights, their open mic series, or like things like at the Legacy Building, keeping up those relationships, having an ear to the ground to like know what's going on, to like basically help serve the community. And then there is a part-time, well, not part-time, but a producer that splits his time between The Current and Carbon Sound, who joined back in November of 2023, who I love because now it's not just me posting everything. he's made it so that we're able to like, you know, handle interviews and DJ sets and things like that. And they all look good and are well produced. His name is John. He actually used to work at the Vanguard and Radio K2, which is how we met. And he's super impactful as well in terms of like the care he puts into the interviews, the research that he does, and just his consistent output too. So it's really, I call it like a 3.5 person team just because the one person splits his time, but it's a pretty small team and we try to just do the best we can with just what we have.
Yeah. All right. So I feel like I've got a really good understanding of how this came up, your background and your role in it and all of that. Let's get into the day-to-day.
Sure.
Like, I get the mission, right? But how do you actually get that across in the programming? How do you celebrate Black musical expression? How do you get to that breadth and depth of all the influence across all those genres? How do you work that into a playlist?
Yeah. So it is just like the stream itself, I think, is the foundation of that. Sometimes I'll just go on the website and look at the playlist and like, I feel like I don't see a playlist that looks like that anywhere else in terms of like the variety of genres, but then also the diversity of people too.
Yeah.
Like the people that it's coming from, those voices, the stories that we're telling through like the interviews. We had one with this person who goes by T-Buzz come up a couple weeks back. And I think he does really impactful community work that like is more connected to like the African diaspora population here, but is like an important story to tell, or like other interview subjects we've had like Georgia Fort, but like letting those people tell their stories and like spreading the word on that, I think is super important. And then also the DJs too that we feature, majority, they're all playing music that is connected to Black genres and like showing the influence of it. And they're all like, I choose them because they like, in my opinion, recognize that and kind of evangelize it as well. I don't like to beat people over the head with things or be like too obvious in anything that I do.
Okay.
So like there are certain things that I've kind of avoided in terms of like being super overt about things. But I feel like,
give us an example.
Just to finish that thought, I feel like for anybody, I hope that for anybody that knows about the genres that we play, about the artists that we platform, about the stories that we tell, that it is super evident that like, I think our mission is evident through the work that we do. But I think that sometimes when things are for like an audience that is underserved and like they don't know how to serve that audience, things can get really contrived or just like, in my opinion, just too obvious. It's like when Target has like their Black History Month stuff up and they only have it up one month of the year and it's gone after that. I think it's cooler when like we just treat it like it's normal and it's not even like we're doing anything special. Like this is just like what we do. This is our mission, so it's what we do. We don't have to like be like super, I don't know. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This is just the way I've liked to do things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, I think it's evident through like what we do, but
how do you strike the balance between sort of honoring legacy stuff and what's coming up next?
That's a really good question. It is kind of just like a numbers game, right? So like in our playlist, the software that we use, each song gets put into a different category. So some of the categories go by like time period. Okay. So like, you know, one category might have songs that are from like 2000 up until 2020 or 1970 up until 1990.
Yep.
We purposefully like play songs that are more modern, like more frequently than like songs that are older, because like we want to showcase the future more than look back on the past, but still like acknowledge the past, you know, enough and things like that. Or even like the DJs that we feature, like I like the age diversity that we have, especially like we just had a residency with Urban Lights. Tim Wilson, the person that runs Urban Lights, brought in like DJs that are a part of his Faders Up series, which happens every Saturday, where like this is DJ spinning in the shop. And like he had DJs come in that have been doing it for decades, that have all this experience and this knowledge and things like that too, that like know the history of hip hop here in the Twin Cities because like they were here since the beginning.
Yeah.
So like we're platforming people like that, and then people who have just been DJing for a year, but you know, even though it has just been a year, they have a super unique take on it because like they don't have the burden of like, you know, how things should be. They're thinking about what things could be, and like could say that they might be making a mistake, but it's kind of just like they're kind of just coming up with a new way to do things. which I think is like super interesting too. So it's like a balance. It's like taking into account the things that you've done to like say, okay, we did this. Now what if we did this and told this kind of story and things like that too.
Yeah. When it comes to giving history, just the talking aspect of things and breaking things down, is that happening mostly through artist kind of interviews, or is that happening from guests that come on and host a program, or from Sani or any of that stuff?
Yeah, okay. The interviews are a huge part of that for sure. Like telling the history of things like that. Like there's a person that works for The Current actually named Derek Stevens who we had on for an interview. He is a person that, was working at KMOJ back in the 80s and is like definitely part of the story of the beginning of hip hop in Minnesota. So like letting him tell that history, or having Tim Wilson on as an interviewer and like telling that history too. I think Sani does a really good job of telling the history through her breaks as well. Yeah. Because she's a big music nerd just like the rest of us, who can like really dive into like, how a song got created, or like the story of a song, or like the significance of an artist, and like, the stories of all of it, which I think is cool. And then sometimes through the DJs that we get too. I mean, I interview all the DJs that goes up on the web posts and things like that. So we're able to talk about, how things might have got started in Minneapolis, or just like add context to right now too. Because a lot of what we do is just like a time capsule of right now. Right. That might be something cool for people to look back on and just like remember like this generation that's going right now. So, history is being kind of made every day. So we have to just like capture moments as well, which I think is cool.
I think it's important, obviously, just for understanding where some of these important cultural things came from that feel like right now, but that have really easily traceable roots, and understanding where that is. But it also, by talking about the history on a local level, ties people together and makes people, I feel like there's more interest in your own city if you can understand the history of it. And hopefully then also maybe meet some of these people too, and inspire more collaborations and more community from that.
Right. And that's definitely what we want to do. I mean, that's a cool part of being locally focused, is that like these people are reachable. If you want to learn something from them, if you want to chat more with them, like especially nowadays, you can do that. Yeah. And a million flowers can kind of bloom from that, where like a cool event might pop up, a cool new platform might pop up, because we hopefully used our platform to elevate people that are doing good things.
Yeah. All right. So you've got your balance between sort of legacy stuff and then what's coming next. And I'm sure then you also have the balance between national and local. What percentage, and not that this needs to be perfect, this can be an estimate, is of what your programming is local?
I would say the foundation of what we do is local, because that's where we make the biggest impact. Like when we were first getting started, it was kind of crazy because like even in those first maybe 6 months, we had interviews with Denzel Curry, Raven Lenae, Gene Dawson, and like those did well, and like those were very cool to do. But like the biggest impact things that we do are like, we had an in-studio session with a local artist. Well, he lives in New York now, but he's basically born and raised here, named San. Like that clip, that YouTube video does just as well as the national stuff on this level, at the level that we're at. And I think it's really important to tell the local stories here, because like, I don't know, there's enough national publications that can probably do a better job covering that stuff than we can. And we have no leverage with those like national artists and things like that, because like we've recorded things with national artists that are super good, in my opinion. But the national artists can just always be like, actually, like, I don't want to put this out. And anybody can say that. Yeah. But like, if a national artist says that and they're signed to Columbia Records or anybody else, it's just like, okay, yeah, we can't do that. Like, we don't want to get sued. Right. So it's like, we can make a greater impact locally. So we just do that, and we do a super good job at it, and we do it like in a well-produced way that is really hard to do, especially on a local level. And that's kind of the power of like public radio, and why public radio is so like vital. So we do that, and then that work, we still have relationships with promotion agencies and record labels and things like that too. So like every once in a while, it can be easy for us to just like, this artist is coming to town. They want to do something, let's do it. Like in the last year, we had like Sampha and like DJ Shadow and some other like national people too. But like the local work that we do is like the bread and butter and the most important stuff that we do, because those are the stories that nobody else is going to tell.
Yeah.
So like somebody has to do it, and we need people to do it well, and we need people to do it in a public radio way where it's like, you know, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to, nobody's getting, not exploited, because I don't think that's the right word for it, but a more altruistic kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's important that public media can handle some of that stuff, because without the funding, a lot of times it just doesn't happen.
Definitely. Yeah.
How would you describe the Twin Cities music scene, specifically Black music?
I can't really answer that question because there's so many different kinds of music, and there's so many different kinds of scenes. I'm lucky to have been able to see that through this work.
I agree. But I think that a lot of people don't see it unless you're working in it.
Okay.
And that's kind of what, so I want you to talk to me about some of those scenes that you know exist now and are blossoming, are thriving.
You know, I think like you take like the indie music scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're performing in basements in Como and like house shows and things like that, to be able to perform at, say, Underground Music Cafe, to hopefully get scouted and go on a tour with a national act and keep doing that and get covered by The Current and maybe MSP Mag and included in that kind of stuff. That indie scene is a thing that exists. There's the punk scene where like people are just like super DIY, wearing jean jackets with patches on it and stuff like that, and they're doing their thing in a super cool underground way. There's the hip hop scene where you're going to open mics and beat battles and things like that, and you're doing all that kind of stuff, and you're doing features, and you're making different kind of content, and you're doing like podcasts and things like that, and you're like opening for like a rapper when they come to town, hopefully, or you're doing a show at like 7th Street Entry. There's like, you know, the electronic scene. But wait, no, there's not just the electronic scene, because you have like this more commercial side of things, which needs to exist. And, you know, might be more on like a North Loop side of town, or like the, you know, a big like traveling festival kind of thing. But then there's also these like super, like, if you know spaces where, you know, world-class talent is coming, but it's not marketed super heavily, and it's just a naturally more kind of like a niche kind of music. I don't know. And then there's like the Dakota and like bunkers and like all this different stuff. There isn't just one like Twin Cities, or like there isn't even just one Minneapolis sound. Like there's so many different things, and there's so many different things to get into. And even like you said, that question with like Black music, like what do we mean by that? Because like there's just so many different scenes to get into. There's so many different events to be a part of. I feel like you kind of have to cite what speaks to you, and just like get out and experience it and like kind of find your people. It can be hard to do that here because like things are just naturally like more DIY.
And see, that's why I keep asking the question. Sorry to jump in.
It's all good.
Because in part that I know how much stuff is going on in the city, and you know how much stuff is going on in the city. But when somebody asks that question, you don't get a very direct answer, do you?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of everything. And it takes effort for somebody to go find it, which is one of the reasons why I think Carbon Sound can be so impactful for people, is because it can curate some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a really, really valuable resource if you're curious about Black music, whatever that's going to mean to you. You get so many different sources of that through your platform, which I think is what is really special about it.
Thank you. Yeah, because like we do like help out with the Urban Lights open mics and things like that. We purposefully post a whole bunch of different kinds of events on our gig list postings and things like that. I think there is cool stuff here, but it's very easy to get like in that like loop of like, damn, like it's not anything to do here. Like all I'm seeing is like this stuff at these bars and like whatever, and I'm not into that. I'm not like finding my people or whatever. So it's like by just focusing more local on these things that are smaller, like I think we make just a greater impact. We're better able to help people in that way.
I think that actually kind of brings us to the next thing I'd like to talk about, which are some of the community-focused things that you're doing. All right, we've talked about these interviews quite a bit through past conversation. What about, I know you guys do like a gig list, and I know that there's DJs that come on, the guest DJs. Maybe just give a few examples of what that looks like for people. If they've never tuned in to Carbon Sound, like what would they expect to hear?
In terms of the DJ sets? Or?
DJ sets, the interviews, the gig lists? Like, what kind of information are they going to get out of this? What value are they getting?
For sure. So the DJs that we get, I try to do a really strong mix of genres. Primarily will be in electronic music, or at least in the past, but we've been getting a lot more hip hop people on. They're hour-long mixes. They go up on our YouTube channel and they go on air if there's not any cursing in it. And you can listen to them on our app or website too. These are, like, in my opinion, some of the most prolific or interesting or talented DJs in the Twin Cities that I've seen, at least, that, you know, also maybe produce their own events or, you know, just have like really strong ties here. Like this mix we're going to put out on the 28th is a part of our residency series with Unbothered, which is a super cool event series led by a DJ here named Yasmina, who does really great work and is, in my opinion, one of the best DJs here, and in a lot of people's opinions, one of the best DJs here. So we're hopefully introducing people to Unbothered, and then people are being introduced to us through Unbothered. Mm-hmm. And Unbothered is another thing we're like, you know, super, super about the Black roots of electronic music. Right. Like she brought DJ Sluggo and Analog Soul here. DJ Sluggo is like basically one of the fathers, if not the father, of ghetto house music from Chicago. Analog Soul is like a twin sister duo from New York. They play at this place called Basement a lot, which is one of the like most significant techno clubs in the US. Super cool and uplifting, like New York house music. So we're like working with Yasmina, and then Yasmina's brought in this person named The Untethered, who runs this thing called the People Sound, which is a sound system that, you know, gets activated all across the city and is like kind of the foundation of music over at Mayday. Through like following our DJ series, you can not only hear like really good DJ sets, but then get introduced to these people that are doing cool things around the Twin Cities. Right. And that, in my opinion, are people that like, you know, are world class. And then also too, we get national folks on too. Like we had DJ Sluggo and Remarkable from New York City. So really just really good at least hour long DJ sets that kind of like go across all the different genres that we normally play on this stream, which I think is cool. The interviews are about like 30-minute segments hosted by Sonny Brown and produced by our producer, John, with people that are doing good things around the Twin Cities or cool things around the Twin Cities and artists as well. Not that that's mutually exclusive. It's often the same thing. And then the gig list is just something that we post on our website and on our Instagram. And if you go to carbonsound.fm, there's a new post with it every Monday. You know, what the event is, where it is, how much it costs, and like the time and things like that. We post it on our story, and then like we just select a few of them for our Thursday post, like, oh, this is going on this weekend. And we found that people really appreciate that, just like an extra post or things like that. Like the people that are putting on the event appreciate it, and then like people that want to know about it appreciate it too. And then also, I think a cool thing that John has been leading is our First of the Month series. He is constantly going through our following on Instagram, but then also on Spotify and different channels to like see like what local artists have dropped something, you know?
Okay.
A lot of times in hip hop and R&B, like what local artists have dropped something. And every month we have a meeting where like we listen to everything, and each of us chooses our favorite from that. And we write about it, and then John includes like all different kinds of releases and like music videos and things like that too. So just like being a platform for that really helps the artists and then people that want to experience local music too. And like hopefully for the artists too, it's like something they can show in like an EPK or whatever to like shop themselves to like
definitely
a promotion agency, a label, or whoever else they need to like take that next step if that's something they're interested in.
Well, you're kind of getting at it now, but my next question was going to be, how do you go about sourcing local stuff?
Yeah, it depends on the endeavor. For local music, we have our ways of like following people on Spotify to keep up with like all of their releases.
Okay.
And then like, you know, we follow a lot of other media platforms on Instagram too that are based in Minnesota that are actually super helpful. Like those relationships. I think, like those rising tides.
You see somebody else is on that podcast or whatever, and then you might go, oh, they might be a good artist for us to look into.
Yeah, or like other pages that post about music, like we all kind of follow each other. And I think the kind of rising tides lifts all ships for sure. For the DJs and other stuff too, just always kind of keeping an ear to the ground. You'd never want to get to a point where like you're in an echo chamber. So try to purposefully like look out for different kinds of things too, or different kinds of artists, different kinds of platforms. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we scout for things. And, you know, with our capacity too, there's only so much that we can do. There's only so many, like for interviews too, like a lot of people want to be a part of it, or like the DJ sets, a lot of people want to be a part of it. We want to consider everything, but we also want to like, you know, not burn out so that we can keep serving the community and things like that. So we generally just try to think like 1 or 2 months ahead and not take on too much. So it makes us be more thoughtful about what we're doing too.
Yeah. All right. So when you get a whole list of things that you're like, all right, let's listen to this. How do you pick?
It's hard because like, you know, people put effort into what they make and you want to honor that. So you like want to listen to the song. You want to like really consider it. You also don't want to engender complacency in anything though. And like, I don't think we're in the business of just giving out like, you know, if we're going to write about something and make it a staff pick, we want that to mean something. We want what we say to mean something as an outlet. I think like any outlet needs to have some sense of like authority. It's like you wouldn't have anybody off the street as like a podcast guest. So like if we're listening to a song and like the auto tune is off key and it's not on purpose, or like it's like super poorly like mastered and things like that, like, okay, keep going, keep doing this if this is something you want to do. But like if we're going to choose something and say like this is our favorite, like it has to be that.
It has to have a certain amount of professionality, certain amount of intentionality, a certain amount of creativity that breaks through and says this is worth it. Yeah.
But I mean, creating art is worth it. And like we're just like one entity. Like people should make what they want to make, and we have like the right to like what we like and like platform what we platform too. So I don't want anybody to like take that personal or think or like try to preach to the choir, to create something other people will like. I think the whole point of art is like make something that feels true to you. If people feel it, they feel it. If they don't, they don't. And oftentimes people creating things that they just like leads to people just naturally gravitating towards it rather than like trying to like preach to the choir.
That is the first step. You have to love it and you have to believe in it. Yeah. Without that, why bother?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So if somebody has been listening to this and they're like, this is the exact place I want to put my music, what should they do to get a hold of you, to submit music? What's the right way to do that?
Yeah. Instagram DMs do a lot. We look through those quite a bit, or we try to at least. Like we said, the team is kind of small. We have a submissions button, at least for music, on our website, carbonsound.fm. And the instructions are there to submit. Sometimes, too, we'll just reach out to people for a WAV file of a song if we think it's like really, really good. But like if you want your song played on the stream or like considered to be played on the stream, like it does need to be WAV format, and even still in 2025, it does need to be FCC clean. But yeah, we try to be transparent about that information. Or like for the DJ sets too, at the bottom of all the web things is like, if you want to be considered, my like personal email address is on there. Just like listen to the mix. But it is just a capacity thing too. Like we want to do as much as we can, but we can only do as much as we can. So I would say just keep that in mind too. And like we're not ignoring anybody.
It's okay if you don't hear back.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that's the nature of these things. You just got to keep trying. What do you think the importance of the artist presentation is when you're getting submissions? Do you require a short bio? Do you want links to an EPK? Like, what are the things that help people stand out?
That's a good question. EPKs do a lot because like you can see what they're about, and you can also like, I mean, there's a level of care and professionality there. It's like, okay, you're serious.
It's
like,
a sign, yeah.
You have like maybe a team, or at least like you know a little bit about what you're doing. So that it's just like super helpful on that level. I think that's important because that just makes it easy too to like, you know, say, okay, this might be a good fit. Especially if there's a like recommended if you like section on there too. Like recommended if you like, you know, artists that are similar to you, just so like people can like make that connection and say, oh, this might be like this, whatever.
I know where this is going to fit in our programming.
Yeah, for sure. That helps a lot. But, you know, your presentation, it all depends on the, I think, intentions of the artist too. Because there are so many different intentions to have with like what you make and things like that too. Yeah. So like that definitely affects like the perception of what the presentation is. Because like if something is like, you know, maybe not as like super professionally put together, but like I can see like the intention of it wasn't for it to be that, and it's still good. Like that's what it's about. It's really just about a good song at the end of the day, and like putting it in a way I think is interesting. But I know that's not something specific that's helpful for people.
But I get it, because different genres have different sort of styles and expectations, and that's going to affect the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. So maybe another way to phrase this that might be helpful for people is, what are some mistakes? What are some things that you're just like, I can't, this isn't helping. This is the wrong way to do this.
I think doing things a little too frequently can not help as much as people might think. You know, it's okay to like take your time with something and like, you know, really try to put something together that's maybe like more cohesive, or like that is maybe a better fit and things like that. I think that can be a mistake. I really think the biggest mistake, that's a really good question, because I'm trying to think of like things that have like made me feel like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when a submission comes in, what makes you go pass? What are some of those early signs you're just like, no?
Well, with a song at least, it's like what we were talking about with like choosing something for the first of the month. Like when I'm picking music for the stream, like, you know, from national, any level of artists, it's just like, is this, in my opinion, a song that's going to work? Is this sound good? So at least for like a local artist, like it's hard to like know everything that goes into a song besides just like loading up a DAW, pressing record, and then saving the file. Like you want your song mastered right. You want it to like sound good. You want it to hit right in the headphones or speakers or wherever anybody's listening. And like, you know, it's hard to know that if you're a super new artist.
So there's just quality issues.
Yeah, to the point where like, you know, even if it has a good hook or something, like it's just not going to sound good on the radio. So I don't want to play it and like misrepresent what you made. For like DJs too, sometimes we'll get submissions and like I can hear that like, okay, you're using YouTube to MP3 files. It's probably less than 128 kbps. This is not going to sound good.
That's going to really fall apart on radio.
Yeah. So like if you're not using high quality audio files, I'm sorry, but like we can't have you on as
That's
DJ.
helpful though. That's really helpful.
No, exactly. And like if like an artist's submission is like super explicit, but like they're saying they want it on the radio, like we can edit it ourselves, but we might not do the job you want for it. So it's like that makes it hard too. I would say mostly the mastering thing though is the biggest thing. Like just does it sound good? Does it sound professional? Because like does it even sound like a song that's for the radio? Because I feel like sometimes things get mastered in such a way where it almost sounds like a podcast, or like, I don't know. It just doesn't sound like the vocals are just like way too like upfront. Like it sounds like just like a raw audio file.
A lot of things have moved to do-it-yourself home studio recordings, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, sometimes that works, which is a crazy part, right?
It can work, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's why I feel like uncomfortable giving that advice.
Yeah.
It's like, because like you take, for example, like a early Clairo song, or like that whole like 2018 wave of stuff that was like super lo-fi.
Yeah.
Like that's part of the appeal.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes you can tell that lo-fi-ness isn't the appeal, or like what they're going for.
It's a tricky thing, yeah.
So
it's a tricky thing.
Before you get to the point of like trying to submit your music to be considered for like any platform, it's like, do you have a team around you? If your goal as an artist is to like have a career, like, are you like doing that foundational stuff of like going to a studio like this, not like this, or just like any kind of studio where like your vocals, you're recording like in a booth that's like soundproofed, and you know, you have like a person that's engineering for you that can like make it sound good and stuff like that. Are you putting that level of investment in yourself?
Sure.
To like see a return on
and
investment?
You certainly can do it on your own if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great place to start regardless, just because you can learn so much. But I think it comes down to, you know, you saying that quality issues are a regular reason that you say no to things. You know, that just means that you need to have somebody in your life that can be a quality control for you, that can tell you, hey, this is not up to par yet. I see what you're going for, but it could use these changes.
It's hard to find those kinds of people,
Yeah.
especially in Minnesota too. I'll say that.
Everybody's too nice.
Yeah, right. But no, those people are super important. So like being a part of your artist community, like going to these open mics where like there is an environment where like if you say some whack shit, like somebody will just be like nobody's gonna clap for you. Like or like practicing with other DJs and like getting advice that like, hey, I think, you know, you started this song at the wrong time so the phrasing's off. So you need to whatever or whatever. Like that makes you stronger, like being a part of your community and not like just being an island. And I do think, you know, part of what we try to do is like introduce those artists to each other more.
Yeah.
You know, so that like everybody improves.
On that note, you guys have an event coming up, right?
Yeah. We have an event on the 13th of June at the Red Sea, and we're going to be celebrating 3 years of Carbon Sound.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And that's open to the public, I assume?
Yeah, it is. We ask that people RSVP so that we can show the impact of the event, so that we can keep doing events like that. And you can RSVP on our website, carbonsound.fm. But yeah, it is free. It's just 21 plus.
Who's going to be at the event?
So we're going to be doing an event. It's called Synthesis. The point of it is to bring together different kinds of genres that all have kind of a common thread through it that might seem like a thesis and antithesis, like antithetical to each other, but they're all coming together to create something stronger, i.e. a synthesis. So we have Kema, who's this really good Latin dance DJ and producer too. Like they've had stuff out on labels. They brought in somebody from Central America last year too. He's going to be starting off the evening. Then we have Quay. I feel like I don't even need to introduce him, but he runs the Samambo series that has been going on quite frequently at Green Room this last year or two. Just great DJ and great guy overall. And he'll be doing an Afrobeats / I'm a piano set. And then also myself and another DJ, Kaya, will be closing out the night, going back to back, doing house and techno. So all these kind of seem like different genres, and they are, but the common thread is like that, this kind of Black and Afro-Latinx roots to bring people together, different communities together in one room under just the flag of dancing and having fun on a really good sound system for free.
Sounds great. So what is next for Carbon Sound as you look forward to the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? What do you hope to keep refining or changing or adding in?
I hope that Carbon Sound is able to contribute to the music scene here by continuing to highlight local things and national things when they come to town, and to leverage those national relationships so that people around the country and around the world know about what's going on here in Minneapolis and spread the good word on it, and that people keep coming here to be a part of what we have here. And so that people that are from here can continue to expand outwardly if that's what they choose to do. I think we're in a good place where we can do that if we just stay consistent with what we're doing, which is 100% what we plan to do. And if we just keep building strong local relationships like we've been building, like with the people that are currently involved with us in, you know, these different kinds of ways. I just hope we make it so that Minnesota is a cooler place to live than it is today, and that a new generation of people that are, you know, considering becoming artists or DJs are doing something or trying something, feel emboldened to try it because they saw that somebody else did it, and that somebody else looked like them and was in a similar city to them. You know, you don't have to be in New York or LA.
Yeah.
You can do it right here, and all you have to do is just start doing it because everybody started somewhere. That's my hope.
It's awesome. Well, I just have one final question. I ask all guests that come on the show if they want to share a secret to the scene. And it's always phrased as something that you wish you might have known when you were younger, and it could be having to do with pursuing art. It could also have to do with just finding your people, finding a job in the arts, any of that stuff, just whatever comes to mind.
I would say not maybe the secret, but the thing that's been most helpful for me to realize, and that I think at least here would be helpful for people to realize, is it's okay to do something that works, that you know works.
Okay.
You don't have to like reinvent the wheel, and things don't have to be super different to be good. I love Prince. I love the Minneapolis sound. But I do think maybe that legacy and kind of just the nature of being here and everything being a little isolated due to the winter can make people sometimes do things that are a little too out there, or maybe a little too heady, or a little too, I guess, conceptual and not enough things that are, just intro, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever, traditional kind of things. Because like I was caught in that for a while of like, no, this has to be different. This has to be brand new, whatever.
Right. I need to pave a brand new path.
But like things work because they work, and you can keep doing it and people will enjoy them because they work. And sometimes people just want something that they know they're going to like.
There's a balance there, right? There's a balance of wanting to be creative and new, but also being accessible and familiar.
Yeah. And it just 100% depends on your intentions too. Like, if you want to be more experimental and if you're cool with that, good, but it's just not going to be for everyone if your goal is like commercial viability. If you want to be like viable commercially and like do things a lot in a lot of different places, like it's okay to like follow the rules, learn the rules, and then start like breaking them. But you gotta know how to dribble before like you can start like just going between your legs and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's an element of learning the standards. Learn the fundamentals and get rooted in that. And then that way, when you start breaking those rules, you'll know why. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of a benefit to just doing what your ear is telling you to do and being creative and seeing what happens. I think the important difference that I've seen for people with that advice is if you feel like you're stuck and you're not sure, like I can't get through, and you're really, really, really working hard to be different from everyone else, that might be a good sign that you don't need to be that different. You can circle back. If you're trying to be really different and that's working for you, just keep doing that. Don't stop doing that. That'd be terrible advice for you. It's more advice if you feel like, this just seems harder than it should be. There might actually be an easier way. And I don't know if that was your experience or not, but.
No, it's just something that I've seen. And to a certain extent, my experience too, at least in terms of DJing, I would say. I got like really in like my own world with like my SoundCloud stuff and like super technical or whatever. I started having a much better time not putting that pressure on myself, learning the standards, learning like the more traditional way to do things, because I taught myself. So I had to like get around more other people and experience more things to like really get to a point where I felt confident and could do everything my way, but then also the traditional way, and just had a better time doing it. It all depends on your goals, what your intentions are, and if it's working, keep doing it. But like if it's not working, like it's okay to like switch it up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way to phrase that, the advice or like the secret. Like life only goes forward. Life is only for so long. You don't have to stay stuck in only one thing. You don't have to keep doing something just because it's what people know you as, or because like it's part of what you think your identity is. Like that is a very flexible thing. You can switch it up at any moment and nobody can tell you that you can't. Like you can do what you want. So a couple different layers to that. Take it how you want. But this is advice that's been helpful for me, and I think has gotten me where I am, if that's anywhere worth being.
Well, thank you for sharing. If people want to stream Carbon Sound, they want to follow, they want to learn more, where do you like to send people?
Yeah. So our website is carbonsound.fm. You can listen to the stream there. You can read articles and stuff like that, and also get more information about things that are going on in the Twin Cities through things like the gig list. We're also on Instagram, Carbon Sound FM. We post a lot of clips of our interviews and DJ sets, and really just use it to lead people to the website. And then also our YouTube channel, which has all the DJ sets, some of the interviews, and then older videos that we made at concerts and things like that too. But yeah, I would say go to the website and download the app if you have space on your phone.
And attend the event if you want to meet people in real life. June 13th, right?
Yeah, June 13th at the Red Sea, Minneapolis, 9 p.m., free, 21 plus, RSVP on carbonsound.fm.
Right on.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for doing this. For everybody that tuned in, if you liked the episode, please leave a like, subscribe, share it with a friend. All that stuff helps. We'll see you next time.